Welcome to another edition of the Nines, presented by AT&T. This week, we're doing something a little bit different. We're talking to Counter-Strike players, not talking to Valorant pros or League of Legends pros. And so I thought this would be a good opportunity because we are starting the player break for Counter-Strike to discuss many new and exciting things that have happened with the Counter-Strike team, as well as do a bit of a retrospective on their year so far, because I'm sure you guys haven't cast your minds back to how far you've come on Cloud9 from your transition to ATK, and we can kind of go through all these tournaments and figure out what you guys learned. And joining me will be the IGL of the team, JT, and the head coach of the team, T.c, who just both have letters as their names. You guys aren't very creative.
Hey man, it's hard.
It's your initials too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, mine was actually Top Cat, but then I realized it's my initials, so I just went with TC, and yeah.
That's not a true story. There's no way that's a true story.
That's true, 100%, 100% true.
Oh, so by the way, guys, the reason why I'm not in the studio today is I am in a cabin in the middle of the woods, hiding from the coronavirus pandemic, just like our friends are in Los Angeles, cooped up in their house, hiding from the coronavirus pandemic. So we're all doing a great job. Congrats to all of us.
Yep. Well, I must say your setup looks a lot better than ours. You know, being out in the woods, we definitely need to look for something fun to do for this player break coming up. Definitely can't be cooped up in this house in LA for an entire month.
So let's start there. What are you guys doing for your player break? And for those people who don't know, the Counter-Strike players have, I think, wisely decided to block out certain parts of the calendar where they're not going to participate in tournaments. Everybody would normally be able to take a vacation or a holiday or go home for you South African people who are on this call. So what are you guys doing? Are you stuck in LA?
We haven't really decided yet, but we all agreed together that we'll take like at least 7 days off the game completely, like not even touch our PCs. But yeah, we're not sure where we're going to go. We can't go back to South Africa because then we won't be able to re-enter the US. So yeah, we haven't really decided. I don't know, Tian, what's your plans?
Yeah, so basically, obviously, ideally, we would go back to South Africa because we don't really get that opportunity too often. But with the lockdown, it's pretty crazy down there. Like, there's like no international flights at all. So, plan at the moment is to just do something probably in California or maybe go out to Vegas. Probably just gonna rent a car and drive around and yeah, just stop wherever, see where the road takes us.
I think what you guys should do, by the way, is if you really want the American experience, I would go ahead and rent an RV and then drive that around. That way, you know, you're sort of quarantined in your own little rolling house. So that'd be a fun thing to do.
Definitely the most American thing we can do.
Might as well enjoy it while you're here, right?
Yeah,
Plus,
exactly, man. As long as JT's not driving the RV.
You'd have to drive it, I think.
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, no.
All right. So we've got some good news is that you guys beat Furia yesterday, which we'll go through this match in a little bit. But this was a huge win for you guys because it allowed you to take what is currently 5th place out of 5 possible teams for Road to Rio points. Now, we don't know if the major is going to happen. We don't know what the results of these RMR circuit points are. But for now, you're ahead of them in major qualification, which is absolutely huge. So it was a really critical match for you guys. And you hadn't really played them professionally before. So TC, what was your level of preparation or your feelings going into the match?
So we actually didn't do too much prep going into the Furia matchup. It was important points wise, but also like it was so close to the player break, and everyone, with the amount of matches we've been playing recently, like everyone's just been so drained, where it's just like match after match after match. So I didn't think that over prepping for them was going to do us any good. So we actually ended up taking 2 days off after we lost to Genji. And then we just played some like 2 or 3 scrims the day before we played against Furia. And just did like 2 hours of prep going into that matchup. So, I mean, we were ready for the matchup, but it was more important for us to just like take a break, take it easy, and just like play that match, have fun, just do, you know, just bring our best game before we head into the player break. So that's pretty much what we did. Fortunately, it worked out for us. Even though we haven't played them professionally, like we scrim them a lot, and last year we were actually playing them quite a bit, I think. It's also just like we've come up together, like they were in MDL with us, and back when the Americans were still in Singularity. So I think everyone is really used to playing them, and because we scrim them so much, like it's a nice matchup for us. We love playing them. So
Yeah, it's a fun game. We're just running at each other the whole like three maps. It's just really fun playing against them.
You guys both play a more fast tempo version of Counter-Strike, and I know I've talked to some of you guys before, saying that your scrims against this team often end super fast. And so, was this the kind of match that you expected going in, or was it a little slower because you guys weren't scrimming? It was a professional game with so much weight and import when it comes to the major.
Yeah,
sorry, I just want to give you an idea. One of our scrims against them, right? We were playing a scrim against them. We started 10 minutes late. They had some hectic storm in Florida where they power surged and they were like off the server for like 10 minutes. They had to restart the internet and get everything back up. Ian's PC wasn't working properly, so he swapped out his PC. Ricky in Oregon's internet died twice during the scrim. We still finished the scrim 5 minutes early.
It's a good story.
It's crazy, man. But yeah, I think the match was definitely a little bit slower paced. I don't know. What do you think, Johnny?
The funny thing is, we didn't really play slower. We actually played like a little faster, but they ended up playing. I feel like they ended up slowing it down a bit, which was kind of weird for them. Like they were trying to wait for like our aggressive plays and stuff like that. And I'm not sure why they were doing that, but yeah, I don't know. I think it was definitely slower than the scrims because they slowed down, but it was definitely still our fastest game we played.
Yeah, and also like I think the initial round engagements were still like the same quick style, but then when we got to like the 2v2s or 3v3 situations, like us and them both slowed it down and tried to look at like, okay, what's the best thing to do here? Instead of just in the scrims where we were just like, okay, we killed two, let's just rush in. so so yeah, no, I think it was definitely a little bit slower, but yeah, it's still, I think even the observer of the match said it's crazy, like within 30 seconds half of both teams are dead. And
Let's talk about this Furia match. So when you guys were playing Furia, it started with a more relatively normal competitive win on Inferno for you guys, 16-10. Then you get into Vertigo and you are in serious danger of getting completely blown the fuck out. Well, you were blown the fuck out, let's be honest. You were blown the fuck out. But completely blown the fuck out, 16-0. You only get one round, 16-1. What happened on Vertigo?
So I think the scoreline obviously looks a lot rougher than the match actually went. Like if you look at the rounds, majority of rounds that they were winning, they were surviving with one or two players, and even a lot of those rounds we were up in numbers advantage. We were like in 2v1s, and we were just losing the clutches. So I think the scoreline is definitely a little bit more depressing than the match actually was. Like in the match, I didn't feel like, we were getting tilted or anything because we were losing so far. It was just like, damn, like we're just really getting unlucky. We're losing all of these close situations. Like nothing is going our way. So it was a little bit unfortunate. Also, right before the match, Johnny and Aaron were stick fighting outside with some PVC pipes. And Johnny hit Aaron on the finger. And Aaron was jumping around here in the kitchen, icing his finger with a bag of peas.
That's my bad.
So it definitely wasn't a good start to the Vertigo match. So we could have definitely gone into the match with a better mindset. So that obviously didn't help either. But I mean, that happens sometimes, right? Like sometimes you just end up getting crushed, like you losing all the clutch situations and things just aren't going your way. And maybe like I think a couple of months ago that would have bothered us a lot more than it bothered us like yesterday. I think the biggest like growth we've made in this past few months is just the team maturing a lot. And I mean, like it just didn't phase.
He says after he talks about his players hitting each other with sticks in between matches. So if that's been, what was it? I don't want to know what it was like before. If this is the new benchmark of maturation, okay? But
it's a process. We're maturing in the server, not necessarily outside the server.
Yeah, it takes
it was
time.
interesting. Interesting handicap you guys decided to give yourself there. You know, I do have to say, many pro player contracts actually state specifically that if you're a pro, you can't do things like going skiing or skateboarding, because if you injure your hands or your wrists or something, you're just completely incapable of playing the game. So I'll have to talk to Jack about this one, make sure that hitting each other with sticks is now specifically prohibited
And
within
they
your
definitely need
contract.
to like bold it in the contract and underline it, so we make sure everyone's aware of it.
Okay, so tell me about after this map, how you were approaching the next game. So was there any tilt? You don't have to say specifically if there was somebody, but it was like, how was the team feeling, and how do you bounce back with your conversation so you can get your head and get into the next game of train?
Yeah, I think we honestly just laughed it off. Like, we got crushed. They owned us. Whatever. We're gonna play train now. We always thought we didn't think, but there was always a chance that they were gonna beat us on Vertigo anyway. It just happened quicker. It's 16-1. It's over. Whatever. We didn't get 16-0 at least. And yeah, let's just take train. There was no tilt. Honestly, no tilt at all.
Yeah, I think one of the guys, I think Ian was even getting a speech ready for the 15-0, but then Johnny won that 1v3 clutch, and then and the speech wasn't necessary.
Got the one round. That was all you need for motivation.
Exactly. I think one of the guys even said, I'd rather lose 16-1 than lose a close 16-14 and before we get into the next match. So let's just go into train and get it over with. You know, they just crushed us, like we can do the exact same thing to
Wait,
them.
I have a question, Ton. Have we ever been 16-0'd? Because I don't think we have, right?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so.
It's not gonna happen.
We've been 16-0'd in a scrim in Europe once. That's it.
Yeah, that doesn't count, and we don't talk about that.
All right, so you guys head into train, and this is another weird scenario because you're down 10-5. Now, train, notoriously CT-sided map, but when you switch sides, now you're able just to completely run the table and finish the match without letting Furia have even one more round in this game. What was the switch that flipped as you headed into the second half?
What do you think, Johnny?
I'm not sure. I think in terms of game plan wise, against them on our CT side, we just kept pushing them, looking for info. Okay, cool, F3 guys here. Let's push into T mid, kill this guy. We know where they're going. Cool, they're gonna go B definitely. Let's go 3B. Ricky's pushing brown holes every single chance that he gets. We just knew exactly what they were doing every round, so that gave us like a good opportunity just to put our numbers in the right places. So in terms of game plan wise, we were like way ahead of them on that CT side, and that's actually really uncommon for us. Our CT sides are usually kind of bad. So yeah, it was a good moment for us.
We've been working on our CT sides a lot, like especially the past 3 weeks or so, and we didn't really get to actually play train, and train CT side was one of the maps we've been working on the most. So I think that definitely helped and shown through there at the end. But also, one of the things I said to the guys after the Vertigo loss is just that we were losing a lot of those rounds because of the lack of information. So if we just make sure that we have the information, like if we need information, go and find it. It's not just going to come to us. And I think we did a really good job on train of making sure we had information every single round so that we could just actually play the round up properly.
More broadly, one of the criticisms that's been levied against you guys, or one of the ways that has been one of the ways people describe the current Cloud9 CSGO roster, is that your T sides are very strong, and you guys have a lot of cool tricks, especially around flashes and how you're going to do your executes, but that your CT side has been pretty weak. So would you say that's a fair assessment, even though in this game your CT side was the one that ended up winning you the match? And what have you been doing, as you just mentioned, to sort of strengthen your CT side play specifically?
So I think on the Summit broadcast, they were actually giving us credit for our CT sides recently. And I think Florian actually explained it pretty well. It's like he said we're almost playing our CT sides like our T sides now, which is like we're coming with a plan for every single round, and we have something that we're gonna do to try to force the other team to play like the way we want them to play. So that's a lot of work that we've been putting out into our CT sides, trying to condition the other team a lot more to how we want them to play instead of just responding to what they're doing. And I think that's one of the things that's been helping us a lot. Like I think in the BTS event overall, like our CT sides were actually a lot better than in previous events.
Yeah, maybe even better than our T sides actually in this event. But I think the the shift especially is on T side. Like I have like a really big voice. Me and myself and MT have a really big voice. And beforehand, we realized on our CT sides that a lot of the time we were just playing individually. Like we weren't formulating a plan. I wasn't saying a lot of things in the freeze time, stuff like that. And in the past 2 months or so, like I've just been making a call. Cool, we're gonna do this. We're gonna control this side of the map, or we're gonna do this specific strat that we discussed in practice, that kind of stuff. And it's been helping us a lot because that's what we're more comfortable doing, and you can see that on our T sides especially.
Have you had to change the way that you do your calls as an IGL between your T side and your CT sides? Besides, I mean, just saying that you're more vocal on your CT sides now, is there a difference in the way that you call?
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. Like on T side, I can completely plan out the round, but on CT side, I gotta like give like a generalized statement, like we're gonna control this side, and if they do this, we're gonna do something like this. I can't like completely plan out what's gonna happen because I don't know what their T side's gonna do. So I can just give like a generalized plan, like we're gonna do this and this and this, but it's not gonna be so set in stone as our T side is, if that makes sense.
Has part of the issue been that you guys aren't giving yourself the necessary information about the enemy team in order to react properly?
Um, and do you mean in terms of prep or in terms of in the rounds?
No, in terms of in the game, like your comm structure, because CT side, you are reacting to what the T side is doing, and that requires people to give you as the IGL as much information as possible to make decisions, right?
Actually, I think our information gathering is really good. Like everyone's communication on this team is like pretty good. The only one that sometimes maybe is a little not there is Sonic, but recently he's maybe even been one of the best communicators in the team. So yeah, it's definitely not a communication error in terms of information gathering. It's more just I think we're just a young team, and like, CT sides are something to get used to, especially at the top tier. And yeah, it's gonna take us some time.
So in my opinion, the biggest thing is like it's not the lack of information, it's the lack of like decision making or direction. Like sometimes we have all the information, but then there's not a voice that's giving direction. It's like, okay, they doing this, so we're gonna do that. It's more like sometimes we have those games where it's like they doing this and then it falls flat, but like we're not saying how we're gonna respond or what we're actually gonna do with that information that we now have. So that's something that we've worked on as well, just making sure that there's always someone like leading the charge and giving direction. As like we're responding like this, we're doing this, you know, even if it doesn't work, it's fine. We have 5 people following the same plan instead of like everyone just kind of winging it. So I think that's also what's helped a lot.
As the coach, has there been anything that you've been working on in terms of team comms over the last few months that you think has really developed nicely?
So as Johnny mentioned, we worked with Aaron a lot to try and improve his comms, which has helped a lot. And then pretty much what I just said now, just making sure that when we're actually communicating, we're giving like direction-based communication. We're not just calling out there's one there, there's one there. We're giving direction. Okay, if they do this, we're gonna do this. You know, planning ahead. All of those things that just give us direction, and then you already know how to respond when the thing happens instead of trying to respond in the moment. Like it just helps so much, and we play a lot better when our communication is like that. So I've also been very focused on reviewing our comms and seeing like what are our comms like when we're actually playing really well and when we're winning, and what are our comms like when we're not doing really well and when we're losing games. And those are like the main things that stood out for me, and the main things that we're trying to work on and keep that moving forward.
We'll get back to kind of the team's development as we go over your history of results so far this year as we hit the 6-month mark into 2020. But before that, let's finish up on CS Summit, because as great as this win was and important as this win was for the major over Furia, we do have to look back at the last Gen G match as well, which was kind of a devastating heartbreaker on Nuke and prevented you from reaching the top 4, from going into the playoffs at this event, and potentially even getting more RMR points. So what happened in your last match, and why was it so different from playing Gen G earlier on in this same tournament?
For me personally, like I think even the whole team agrees that we kind of just choked on Nuke when we were up 13-8. We started, I don't know, like the things just kind of fell apart a little bit. The inexperience kind of shown through there. But also I think it's also just a result of playing them so many times, man. Like it's what we've played them about 6 times now already in the past 3 months. And it becomes like really redundant when you're just playing the same team the whole time. It's difficult to keep winning. Like you can't. Oh, I think at the moment it's like 4 wins for us, 2 wins for them. But like it's hard. It's like nearly impossible to just keep beating the same team over and over again on the same map when you're scrimming them on those maps as well. It's like you don't really have any more tricks left in your toolbox, right? So like you kind of run out of things to do when you need an ideas. Like we've tried a majority of the things, and like I said, at the end of the day, it was honestly just a choke from us. Like we should have closed that out. We had everything in our core to close it out. But yeah, Kusta also just played amazingly for him. I think he won a couple of clutches, couple of 1v2s, and yeah, that gave them what they needed to win. What do you think, Johnny?
What do I think? Yeah, I mean, we just choked. I think, like you said, like there's only so many things that I can call. Like I'm in our matches now, and when we've played these same teams like over and over again, I'm just making things up. Like we've never done this in practice. I'm just making something up. Like, cool, let's just try this. And I mean, that's not something that we're used to doing. I'm just kind of doing things on the fly. Like, cool, let's just do this. That sounds cool. Like, yeah, cool. MOTM, you just run up there and do this. Like, I don't even know if it's going to work. I'm just saying things at this point sometimes.
Do you think this is another problem that you guys have had with the pandemic, and that you can't get outside of the North American region to boot camp or try things against other teams?
Yeah, it's definitely a problem, and you see a lot of the players on other top teams are also complaining about playing the same teams over and over again. So it's definitely a problem. It's kind of limiting practice. Like even during some of these events where the teams are split into 2 groups, and Group A is playing like on a Monday, Group B is playing on a Tuesday, and then you go again Wednesday, Thursday. The problem with that is like now when you're practicing, you don't want to play against the teams in your own group because you're going to play them in your group play. And the teams in the other groups are all playing matches on the days that you need to scrim. So who's left to scrim? You know, we had a period where we were about to play EG in like 2 days, and like me and the EG's coach were talking about we potentially gonna play 3 scrims against each other like 2 days before our match because there's no one else to scrim. It's like just like we'd rather get any form of practice than no practice at all. And I mean, like, it's kind of ridiculous that we're in this situation at the moment. I mean, it's not always as hectic where we can't find scrims, or like at least some point at some point in the group you've played against some teams in your group, so you can just start scrimming them again. But it's been rough. It's like especially during like while the tournaments are going on. It's it's tough, man. Like some points we even just like dry running in a server doing executes against ourselves just so that we at least getting some form of practice on the map. But yeah, no, it's the pandemic's definitely made it a little bit tougher.
Yeah, I remember discussing with Mix that we could some of us, like if myself or Mix like actually just went and played for some of those teams, we actually know all their strats at this point. We've watched their demos so many times, we played them so many times, we played them all the scrims. I mean, like I could probably just go sit in one of the scrims and actually just play in one of their spots because I know all their fucking strats.
I know I've talked to Thorn at certain points in time when we've discussed the rare Korean Counter-Strike teams in the past in 1.6, and he would tell me that some of the Korean teams would occasionally come to tournaments and they wouldn't do great, but they would surprise people. But because they didn't have anybody to practice, they would just practice executes in empty servers. So they would have very complicated strategies, but not a lot of like mechanical skill or game sense. Which sounds similar to your current kind of situation where you have to prioritize that form of practice.
Yeah, it's pretty much what we're doing, but yeah, it's rough,
It's
man.
cool. I mean, it's a different kind of prep for sure.
Yeah.
Let's go back to a time on a magical journey with me through time and space to earlier this year and late last year, because after the majority of you guys joined from the ATK roster, you start coming to Cloud9. Let's revisit a time when you did boot camp. And I don't want to talk too much about your first dream hack because I know you guys didn't have any practice going into it. So let's start discussing your boot camp in Poland right before IEM Katowice and What was that like for you? And in retrospect, what do you think you learned or gained as a team over those several weeks that you were there boot camping in Europe?
Yeah, that was basically the first time we had the opportunity to spend that much time in Europe because like beforehand we didn't have an organization with the kind of backing that Cloud9 has that can afford to send the team to Europe for like I think we were there for about 6 weeks, right? So definitely learned a lot there. I mean, the great thing in Europe is there's so many different teams that you can play against, and everyone has insane aim, and everyone has like a different stylistic approach. So you basically learning from every single scrim you're playing against a different style every time you're scrimming a team, and the practice that you get in Europe overall is just it's great. It's like I'm not gonna say it's 10 times better than what you get in North America. Like if when we were scrimming in NA when there's actually not that many tournaments and stuff happening, you get really decent prac in NA as well. But yeah, that's really great. I think one thing that we learned from there is that like I think we definitely had too long of a boot camp without a break. I think next time if we do something like that, we'd rather opt for more of like a 2-week boot camp, or if it is in a period where we need to be there in like 4 weeks time anyways, and we do want to stay there, like rather plan like have a week in the middle of the boot camp where you just take that week off and you just go and do something together as a team and where you just get completely away from the game. Because that boot camp like really drained the team as well. I think everyone was so hard on themselves, like trying to improve and trying to get better as quick as possible and make the most of the time that we have there and the opportunity. It's our first opportunity to boot camp in Europe for so long, so everyone's just trying to grind really hard and play the game so much, but it ended up just like burning everyone out, and people were just like, by the time we actually got to the tournament, like everyone was almost like already drained and so tired of CS. So I think that's definitely a big takeaway that we got from that, is like how important it is to like not overdo it and to manage your like time and energy efficiently. So yeah, that would be definitely one of the big takeaways for me at least.
I mean, I think you
JT, did
covered
you
most
feel
of it.
that as an IGL that you got any specific information or specific skills from that boot camp? Were you able to hone anything that you hadn't been able to really develop previously?
Uh, I mean, yeah, definitely. It's like Tian said, it's like we're playing in so many different styles. So that's where like you can tell like which of my strats are going to work like against this team. How do I need to play against this team? Like you're not going to do the same things. For example, in NA, you're not going to do the same things against Furia that you would against EG, right? And that's something that I didn't really think about before. Like different calling styles that I need to perform like against different teams. So yeah, I think that was like the biggest thing. There's so many good teams in Europe. I don't think the teams are necessarily better than North American teams, but there's just so many more teams. Like there's like 40, 50 teams that we could scrim and we can get good practice on. So I think it's just realizing what to do against different teams was something that I learned.
What would you guys change for your next European boot camp to avoid some of the burnout?
I think basically just what I said, just planning it better. So like limiting the amount of time we spend on a day in practice, limiting the amount of time we spend on CS, and then also just like I said, not making it too long. Like you either do it for like a week or 2 weeks, but the 4 weeks thing that we tried, or 4 or 5 weeks, whatever we were doing, it's way too much. Like we were just like pushing ourselves over the edge basically. So yeah, I think it's just like either limiting the amount of time we spend in Europe, taking a break in between there, and just managing our time better.
You felt burned out at the time, but now that you've had some, months of distance from it, do you feel that even though you were burned out in the short term, that practicing that hard for that many weeks was beneficial in the long term, or still no?
No, I actually don't think it was beneficial. Like okay, it's not like where it's like not beneficial at all, right? But it's just like if you're if you're doing the same thing over and over, like because we were playing like 5, 6 scrims a day just because we didn't want to waste the opportunity. And when you're playing 5, 6 scrims a day and then you're still doing reviews on top of that, and the guys are still putting in individual hours, and you doing
You
like
just can't focus after a while.
12 hours a day, of CS, or
Yep.
even more for some of the guys, like, it gets to a point where it just doesn't matter anymore. Like, you're just like, the time you're putting in is just like not making a real difference. So yeah, like it got to a point where it wasn't beneficial.
Your first game of IEM was up against Astralis. At the time, best team in the world. How was your mentality when you walked into this match, JT? Did you view this as a very exciting opportunity? Was it intimidating at all? How was your first LAN experience against this legendary roster?
I wouldn't call it intimidating. I think it was like a fun opportunity. Like, let's just see how good we actually are. And I think in moments in that game, like you could really see that we are actually a good team. Like, especially on train, like we were outplaying them in a lot of different rounds. But I think part of that game it made us realize that they're far better in the mentality game. Like their mental game so much like I don't know what the word is, but their mental game's like way ahead of what ours was at the time. So that's something that we've been working on since Katowice, is just working on like keeping our focus in the game, keeping relaxed in the game, like keeping our comms as calm as we can, and just making sure that we don't lose to ourselves, because that's something that we do a lot. We lose to ourselves, and I think that's something that those top teams, like those top 5, top 10 teams, don't do. So that's just something that we got to work on.
How do you advance the mental game of the team? Is Cloud9 providing you with additional resources, TC, about this, or how are you coaching around it?
Yeah, so basically a couple of things. I mean, we have Gary at Cloud9, the sports and performance psychologist. So he helps a lot, with how we, the right way to look at things. We also worked with someone before that, sports psychologist from South Africa called Clinton, and yeah, I think it's really helped us a lot in terms of just helping us to identify when we play our best, like what mental states are good for us, when we're focused, when we're relaxed, or, having fun, like things like that, identifying the things that help us to perform our best and to stay calm, and also just like doing that self-reflection, right? Like you actually need to focus on the mentality or the mental aspect of the game, and you need to actually go and review that as well. It's not just something that's going to grow on its own. You need to actually actively put work into that, because if you're not focusing on that and growing that, it's not just going to come on its own, right? So just like triggering like self-reflection, and for the guys to also identify and help understand why these things make a difference, because it requires buy-in from the players, right? The players need to understand that it's important, and this is what actually makes a difference. And I think we've got that buy-in from all of the players. Definitely, we've had it from the start of the squad, and yeah, it's all about, I think we just lost track at a certain point where we had worked on it a little bit in ATK, and then we got to the point where we did well at Pro League, and then we kind of forgot that like it took work, right? We worked on our mentality after getting completely crushed at the first ESL Pro League group. We were working on the mentality weekly for 3 months in a row, and that's what got us a good result at Pro League. But it's not something that just stops. Like it's a continuous job. You need to constantly be working on the mental aspect of the game to actually keep improving it. Otherwise, it just falls away. And that's a hard lesson that we learned. And yeah, we've gone back to focusing on that side of the game and making sure that at least once a week or once every 2 weeks we are doing something in that aspect of the game.
Your next match was a 2-0 loss after falling to Astralis to NIP. So you guys lost your 2 best of 3s and were out of the tournament. After spending so much time in Europe, weeks and weeks and weeks boot camping, to go out without winning a map in only 2 games, was that difficult?
Yeah, it was extremely disappointing. Like we spent 6 weeks in Europe just to play 2 best of 3s, and now we're out. And it's not that we were disappointed that we lost to NIP and Astralis. I mean, they were good teams, but it's just that we kind of got wiped by NIP, and it kind of just put it into perspective like how draining those 6 weeks are. Is just how we just got wiped by NIP just straight after that. So yeah, it was extremely disappointing, but I'm happy that we went through it together. We got a lot of good lessons from it.
Yeah, it was more
Obviously,
disappointed in the fashion that we lost, like the way we got blown out, especially after playing against those teams, all those teams in Europe for so long. We scrimmed them so regularly, and we were beating a lot of the top 10 teams in Europe. So we were like going into the event with such high expectations, and then to just get wiped like that, it was like, yeah, just the fashion in which we lost. That was like even more disappointing on top of like the 6 weeks that we spent in Europe.
Yeah, exactly. Our scrim
Well-
results were actually like amazing at the time, so we were expecting to actually do some damage at the tournament. That's why I'm saying like the mental aspect of the game that they have that we didn't have at the time is just completely put them over the edge. So that's something that we just need to keep putting work into, as like we have been.
Okay, this is being pre-recorded, but before we move on, I want to make sure we get our Puma giveaway in. So this is obviously not live, but you can win still if you put hashtag Puma in Twitch chat. You're older than 18 and you live in North America. Somebody in that chat will select a winner and announce it over there. Sorry, we're not live this week, but because of my internet situation and these gentlemen needing to go on a break, that's what we're working on here for the Nines. So be sure to do that. Now, moving on. That level of competition at IEM was world class, right? Best teams in the world were at that tournament. And, you know, even as you say, disappointing result versus NIP, but you come back to the States and you have Flashpoint, and the level of competition, obviously not as high as at IEM Katowice. What were your expectations heading into Flashpoint as a team, considering it seems like you felt very confident after your boot camp over in Europe?
Johnny, do you want to take this one?
I'm trying to think.
I remember our expectations coming into Flashpoint, right? So coming into Flashpoint, the expectation was definitely we want to win Flashpoint, or we're going to win Flashpoint. We're one of the best teams in the league, and that was the expectation that we set for ourselves was we wanted to win. Obviously, didn't go our way.
Hey, you still placed top 4, which is a very respectable finish, especially considering you couldn't have known how good Mad Lions was going to be. You didn't know that we were going online, so you had to face online MIBR as opposed to LAN MIBR. Lots of factors, right? But I do want to talk about your first win, because it was a pretty big and important win for you guys. Your only LAN match before we went online at Flashpoint was up against Fun Plus Phoenix, who at the time was the Heroic roster. And Heroic, I believe, was ranked 12th heading into this tournament. They were, I believe, the highest ranked team that we had. And so this is the biggest name or biggest group of players that you guys had beaten on LAN as Cloud9 up until this point. How was that win for you?
I think that was a really important win for us, especially like after the disappointing result we had at IM Katowice. So just to prove like that the work, all the work that we did in Europe at the boot camp, all the results we had at the boot camp, it wasn't all lost with those 2 losses at IM Katowice. We still carried all of that stuff over, and I think we came into that game, especially like we showed great mentality in that game, because we kind of threw a 15-8 lead, went to overtime, still won the overtime train game, and then just completely crushed them on the 3rd map. So I think like that game just like showed a lot of growth that we have made, like even though it was like such a short period after IM Katowice, but we identified like where we were falling short and what we needed to work on, and it showed in that game. Like we were playing really well, really good mentality in that game, and yeah, it was a big win for us. I mean, yeah, they were the number 12 team at the time. I think before that, before that our only win was over G2, which was also number 12 team, but that was back when we were still under 80k. So yeah, no, I think it just helped to solidify that we've made some progress since Katowice.
Was this important for your mentality to bounce back, JT, or give you some increasing faith that you could win Flashpoint?
I mean, I'm not sure. I honestly don't remember the game at all. But yeah, I think it was an important game. Like just getting back onto LAN and actually finally winning a LAN game again. We're definitely happy that we could do that. But honestly, I don't remember the game, so I can't tell you anything about it.
It was also
Let me ask you.
at a time where like everyone was doubting us on LAN, because like we had these results online where we qualified for Leipzig, we qualified for Katowice online, but we went to LAN and we got destroyed. So everyone was like questioning our ability to actually play on LAN, and can we actually transition to LAN play. So that was really a really important win, actually. Yeah.
I mean, you were questioning it as well, because I remember in our interview that we had prior to the start of Flashpoint that one of the reasons you were really excited about having a bunch of guaranteed games at Flashpoint rather than just having a tournament structure where you could go 2 and out like you did at IEM was that you wanted more LAN experience because you felt that you had LAN jitters. Was that something that you felt at the time, JT, that your performance on LAN, because you were talking about the mentality wasn't necessarily the same or reflective of your performance online?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Like I said, just at Katowice, we could tell that our mental game just wasn't there. It just wasn't good enough for being a top 10 team or top 20 team. So we just wanted more LAN games. If you just play more LAN games, you're going to get better at playing LAN games. And you're going to be less nervous when you get into the game. There's going to be less pressure every single time. So yeah, it was important for us to actually get more LAN games. It kind of just sucks that we didn't. We only just got that one. But yeah, it was definitely important for us to win that game. It just helps us mentally, just not being so nervous for each LAN game, especially at Katowice. I could definitely tell that the pressure was getting to us and that we were nervous before those games start. So it's important for us, yeah.
You guys end up winning your phase 1 group, and you're one of the top 3 teams in the next phase. And I'm going to touch on 2 other teams that you guys played in this tournament that were really important. One of them was Havu, and you guys lost the phase 2 group to Havu and then ended up getting knocked out of the tournament in the losers bracket by Havu. This was a team that qualified through the Flashpoint Open qualifiers and kind of surprised many people about their level of play and especially their level of tactics coming in. They looked like a very well-coordinated team. What are your impressions of Havu, and why were they able to 2-0 you on 2 separate occasions?
I think, like you said, just tactically, the tactics are really good. The teamwork in that team has definitely been grinded down, if that makes sense. I think Saul's a great IGL, and I think at the time they had played like 200 matches in like 2 months or something stupid like that. So they've been they've been grinding when they went into Flashpoint. So yeah, I don't know. I think tactically they just outplayed us, and it was a big like an eye opening for us that like you can just win games just straight off tactics, and that's what they did against us.
So I think also to contribute to that, uh, it just also felt like they had a much better game plan than us. Like it's from the start of the game, like in both those series. I remember the first one we floated Mirage because we were scrimming Mirage, so we wanted to try and bring it into our matches. So when we played them in the group, we floated Mirage, let them pick it so we could actually see how we would do on it. Obviously, it didn't go really well at all. But then like it also made us when we played them again for knockout, it kind of like how can I say we still weren't ready for them. Like we kind of wrote that loss off as like, well, we let Mirage in, we lost in overtime on Vertigo, so we didn't like look into that loss as much as we should have. And then when we played them again in the knockout stage, and like the same thing happened, they would just like we were on the back foot from the start. It just felt like they had like their game plan was overwhelmingly better than ours. That like made us realize like, oh shit, like these guys are actually like really good. We should have like we aren't prepared. We weren't prepared for that matchup, and yeah, the better team won on that day.
When we look at Mad Lions, who knocked you out of the winners bracket, you guys played one really competitive match heading into multiple overtimes against Mad Lions. How do you think you stacked up to this roster, considering that they came in as potential favorites, but as a relative unknown, considering they had changed out the IGL from Hunden to Asilian? What are your thoughts on Mad Lions in that tournament and now?
I think they, if I remember correctly, there was the overtime loss on Inferno. Yeah, we kind of had we knew because back then like our nuke wasn't really good at all. We were playing it and getting better on it like day by day, but we knew we had to win Inferno to actually take that series against Mad Lions. And yeah, I think that was like just the heartbreak when we lost that Inferno in like quadruple overtime or whatever. It was tough to get mentally back in it and to actually be competitive on Nuke. I think they just shut us out completely. But I think Mad Lions are a good team. I think they played really well in like the whole of Flashpoint. They had really solid game plans all the time. And yeah, I'm actually surprised that they brought in a Cillian and they just kept on doing well. I thought they would maybe have a bit of a dip after changing IGLs, but it kind of
To
makes
be fair, they did. They lost their first match of Flashpoint.
yeah, well, I mean, like losing one match was not that that big in in the scheme of things. I mean, but also I saw why they didn't really have that dip because I went back and watched demos where Hunden was still playing, and it looked like Asilion was just calling the tactics that Hunden had implemented into the team because they were doing the same stuff still. It was just Asilion like filling the gaps, and I suppose choosing which tactics he wanted to keep, and then like just building the foundation from there. So it made sense why they didn't like experience as big as a fall off as I thought they would. And yeah, I think I'm not really sure what's going on there at the moment. I mean, there's rumors that Bubsky was getting replaced, and I suppose we'll see what happens after the player break. I mean, I don't think that's a good move, but it's not my decision to make at the end of the day, right?
JT, when you go into a playoff game and hit that quadruple overtime point, how do you possibly continue doing your job as an IGL? Because you've run through your playbook on that map. What is the mentality that you have in that situation to continue to call the shots? And what do you have to? How do you have to adapt in order to survive in games like that?
I mean, I'm not really doing my job at that point. If you ever watch like a quadruple overtime game, it's like I'm just pulling strats out of a hat. Like, cool, we're gonna do this now. It's either gonna work or it's not gonna work. Like, to be honest, I don't know. It just comes to me in the game. Like, cool, we're gonna do this. It's gonna work because of this. No idea why. That's just I don't know. To be honest, it's just something that it just comes to me in the games. To be honest,
You have to do it by feel at that point in time, based on
yeah,
the rest of the match.
it's been so many rounds. I just gotta just do what my gut tells me.
You don't even know if the other team's gonna remember the round where you did this and this, but now you want to fake that. You don't even know if they remember it at that point. So you're kind of just taking a gamble all the time.
You guys finished fourth place in Flashpoint, and then you're going to head into the ESL 1 Road to Rio tournament, which is going to be entirely played online. I want to talk about two wins that you had over the course of this event that were really significant because moving from the important win against the Heroic roster on LAN, and yes, these wins that we're going to talk about are online, but the fact that you're able to take out EG and Team Liquid in this event, and these are even higher ranked teams than Heroic was at the time, and kind of the two top teams in the North American scene. What was it about this event that allowed you to pick up those wins? Did you guys feel that you had learned something or you had evolved in a specific way that was making you competitive against America's best?
I think the most important match in that event for us was actually the loss to Triumph. Like that was just a
Fair.
that
You
was
like doing that. That wasn't the first time or the last time. Actually,
yeah.
it was the first time, but it wasn't the last time.
So yeah, I mean that was like honestly it was just because we had all these like even in Flashpoint we were winning the whole time, like obviously not against Harbour and Mad Lions, but I mean all the other games. But it was just constantly these close like scrappy wins where the third map we were winning 16-14, and now once again Triumph, we third map, we up 13-11, and they all of a sudden they eco us and they start bringing it back and we end up losing the third map 16-13 this time. And that was just like the biggest wake up call for the entire team. Is like we gotta just like be better. We gotta come more prepared. We can't like keep just scraping by and hoping that these games keep going in our favor, because at some point, like just got shown in that match, it's not gonna go in our favor and we're gonna lose games that we shouldn't be losing. So yeah, that was like I said, a big wake up call for us. I think like after that we all started like we started managing our time better. We started like when not necessarily working harder, but not just working harder, but working smarter actually. We were more prepared for every single game we played. We came with a solid game plan. It was like we became Harvard in a sense, like we wanted other teams to feel like we came with a better game plan and that they were on the back foot. And from there, yeah, we were just developing developing everything from that point. Like even we completely reworked our schedule, our approach to practice, how many scrims we play a day, what we do during like what we use our time for. We just changed everything basically at that point, and it's all been for the better, or at least it feels like it for now. I mean, everything's been going much better since we made these adaptations to our schedule. But
Has
yeah,
it changed the way that you call in the game, JT, to have a different way of prepping? Because you're the person who's responsible for implementing that game plan when you actually hit the server.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I always just like set up a game plan beforehand, even before the Triumph game. But I think what we're doing differently now is that I'm letting the team know. Like we're going in before the match, like 2 hours before the match. We're doing a 2-hour prep session, and I'm letting everyone know. Cool, we're gonna do this. They're gonna react like this. If this happens, I'm gonna call this. Later on in the game, I might call something like this. This is what the pistols are gonna be like. This is what I expect their anti-ecos to look like. That kind of stuff. And we're just speaking about it, so that way when I'm calling it in the game, everyone knows what I'm going to call and everyone knows why I'm calling it. And it's easier on the rest of the players if they know exactly how the game's going to end up feeling like.
yeah,
I
I
think
think.
he disconnected. Wait, he's back. He's back.
I'm back. Yeah, just a little hiccup, forest internet over here. So I do have to ask. We talk about the importance of that Triumph game, but if we fast forward to Blast, you lose a Triumph again. So in spite of talking about how important it was and really feeling like you could hang with the best, and indeed you prove that once again over in Blast because you're able to take a victory over 100 Thieves. What is it about Triumph as a team that causes you guys so much trouble?
I mean, they are actually a great team. Like we don't give them enough credit. They try and do the same thing we're trying to do. Like they proving to the rest of North America that they can beat like the Team Liquids and the Evil Geniuses and stuff like that. I think Shake Zula, the RGL's a really good RGL. He's like the tactics that they put up against us every time we play them is difficult to deal with. And yeah, I think they just have some great players, and we underestimate them sometimes when we play them, but they're definitely a great team, and I don't think people realize that. I don't know. What do you think, Tian?
No, I agree. I was just looking at Monte's face. But yeah, that's 100% true. I don't think. Well, at least back then, like people weren't giving them enough credit. Like even like I think us when we lost to them the first time, we weren't really happy with that result. Um, but yeah, they do a lot of good work. You can see every time they put in the work. Sheikh Zula Allen is like really good tactics, and they've just been improving ever since that Road to Rio event. Like every time we play them, it's like they've just gotten better and they've stepped it up a notch. And yeah, they just keep improving. So props to them.
Okay, so now that you finished in your 5th place, you're looking like you're on track, at least for the moment, to make the major. Looking back at all these events, what would you say were the biggest things that you've improved on over the course of your DreamHack Leipzig now to the conclusion of CS Summit 6? As a team, you've been boot camping in this either in Europe or in this house in LA this entire time. How have you grown as a roster?
I think the two main things is definitely preparation and then just mentality. Like we've gone leaps and bounds in terms of our mentality, and our preparation has been much more in depth recently. I think that's definitely it's definitely put us over the edge recently.
That and like I think as well, like just to add to that is just also the guys maturing a lot. Like just realizing making that transition from like you're not just getting paid to play a video game, there's other things that come with the job, like you're promoting like products and brands, but the prerequisite is that you need to be good at a video game, and that there are other things to the job than just playing the game. And I think the guys realizing that and maturing and growing up has also helped us to grow in mentality and all the other things that we've grown on and improved on. I think also as like being a team for longer now has also helped like and expanded our map pool because we've been the team, the same roster for so long. We have a lot more tricks in our playbook now, and a lot of things that we can fall back to. Like even if it's something that we haven't practiced or done in practice in the past few months, like it's something that Johnny can easily just call and like, oh, remember when we did this back then, you know, like, and people will instantly just remember it. So it just makes it a lot easier to adapt on the fly when we've been a team for so long.
What would you say right now are your key strengths as a team, and what makes you dangerous compared to other Counter-Strike teams? What are your specialties that you think you're particularly strong at?
What do you think makes us dangerous, Johnny?
I don't know how to answer that question. We got floppy. That's one thing. But
He's
just
pretty good at killing people.
yeah, he's pretty good at baiting. I think just like tactically, I think we're one of the best teams in North America tactically. Like you can just see it in the statistics. Like our flash assists are like highest in the world or something like that. So tactics, preparation recently, like we've been talking the whole time. Like now that we're doing like these crazy amount of preps, like we know exactly what's going on in these games, and it helps us keep focused. I think that's something that puts us over the edge over other North American teams. But yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't know.
I think also just like our style where it's like a lot more team focused than like individual focused. Like even if Flop is in front, like he's running in first and he's not like he's gonna be like, okay, no, I'm not going in first because I need to be the guy killing people. Like everyone knows, like whoever's in that position just needs to do the job and get it done. And everyone in the team is equally good. Everyone can get the kills. It's like as long as we're setting each other up for those kills. So like just having that type of mentality where, you know, people aren't trying to play for themselves, they're always playing for the team. Like I think that's what makes us really dangerous as well.
Yeah, I think a cool way of looking at it is what the CS Summit casters were saying. They were saying we're like a brotherhood, like we're like a family on this team. So I think that's something that helps us in those games. It sounds stupid, but I think it's something that helps us in this game, just being a family.
No, I think it's definitely key and part of what Cloud9's organizational goals are for its various rosters and players. You guys are, live very close to the League of Legends team, so I'm sure you have in the past spent some time with them as well, and you can see that kind of mentality in their case also. To wrap this up, let's have a little bit of fun ranking teams. Don't rank yourself, okay? Don't rank yourself, but if you had to rank the top teams in North America right now, given the current online state of everything, how would you create that power ranking, and who would be kind of your top 5?
Do you want to go first, Dan, or should I?
So I mean, like the top 3 are definitely like EG, Liquid, Furia, I would say are the top 3.
In that order?
The order is difficult because it's like I think like Liquid almost always beat EG, and EG always beat Furia, but Furia always beat Liquid.
That's fine, but you have to give me an opinion. I'm asking your opinion.
Okay.
You don't have to be objectively correct. This is just the T.c take we got going on here, which by the way is a great title for your solo content series, the T.c take. There you go.
Coming to you soon, the T.c take. So for me personally, I would say like EG have been looking really good recently. It looks like they're getting back to their old selves, like where they're just like completely dominating. So I would say if they continue on their like upward trend that's going on there at the moment, especially after the player break, I would keep them in first. Liquid second, Furia third, and then it would have to be 100 Thieves followed by Gen G. Yeah, that would be my top 5.
Damn, Furia third?
Yeah.
No way. I would put.
Why would you put Furia higher, JT? Why would you put Furia higher?
Why? I don't know. I think they have like the highest win percentage right now in North America. Like they win most of their games. It's only recently that they had like a little dip, but I mean it's online and they keep playing the same teams over and over again. They're gonna have a dip eventually. I put Furia first, and then EG.
Through to the HLTV rankings now. Come on, I'm trying to mix it up a little bit.
I mean, last time someone asked me this question, I put EG at like 6th, and now I'm putting them second. So Furia, then EG, and then Liquid third, then 100 Thieves fourth, and I think Gen G fifth would be my ranking.
All right. Very cool.
At least we can agree.
Okay, well, without including yourselves, of course, without including yourselves. Well, it's really cool to hear now in retrospect about all of your wins and losses and how you guys grew as a team throughout 2020 so far. You guys are heading into the player break now. What do you want to accomplish for the rest of 2020 with the likelihood that we're probably not going back to LAN anytime soon? If you guys had to set one goal for yourself so that in 6 months we can talk about that goal again,
I got
we'll see
one.
if you've accomplished it. Okay.
I just want to win something, anything. Online event, LAN event, I don't care. Can we just win something, please?
One win for Cloud9.
That would
Yeah.
definitely be a good start. But yeah, overall, I think we've grown a lot, and it's just important that we don't stop here. It's like we just need to keep growing, keep working on things, and eventually that win will take care of itself. Like if we're just doing our part and we just keep working on the small things, like we're gonna get that win eventually.
So what's your goal then?
The goal is definitely to just come back. Like Jody said, like winning something will be nice, but also like trying to get up into the top 10. Like I think that was a goal that we set out at the start of the year, to try and get into the top 10 by the end of the year. And I think that is still the goal. That's still the goal for me at least. That hasn't changed. And then winning something would be a nice touch on top of that.
All right. Well, excellent. Enjoy your break. Enjoy some time away from CS before we head into the second half of the year and the calendar. This has been the Nines presented by AT&T. Thank you very much, T.c and JT, all the letters coming on the show and talking about your performance so far.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Thanks.